That's what I want to say.
Yes. You remember
the documents?
Yes, I remember.
I sent you sent me
for verification.
You sent to
me, and you told me,
and I said,
hang on.
I said, I told you, I said,
family hang on.
I said, let me make my investigation. And when I got my investigation, I got back to you, and we said something. I said, still hold on. Let's wait for confirmation from the family, and that was what happened. And maybe that one came.
5 minutes,
I told you it was a family. So I don't know why some people are so much in a hurry to break, quote unquote, the news, breaking news, break. You want to break the news of someone's death. Is that right? And immediately that happened, you saw so many other blogs taking over and all over, and the responsibility and copy and paste and just going and the rest of them. But thank God nothing of such happened. And as Jide rightly said, Akeredolu is not just a governor. That was the former president of Nigerian Bar Association. And we hold him in high esteem. Those of us in that level of profession, we hold him in high esteem. And he's somebody that stands for what he stands for. He does it. In fact, after that, I had to go back and check some of it. That was, he sings. He dances. If you go and check YouTube, you will see where he was singing and Fela's a Kegite also. So he's a very jolly good fellow. The wife also, some time ago, also said it that, yes, my husband is not.
A cancer survivor.
Yes. So the wife is a cancer survivor. Yes. Our sister. She's my sister.
Yes, Betty.
She was our sister. From Imo. She's our sister. So Akeredolu is our in-law. So anybody to start breaking, yes, now he's our in-law. Anybody to break news,
to wish
anybody. And
let
us even assume, which we are not sure, we're saying cancer. People survive cancer.
Yes, no.
Cancer is no longer the killer disease.
No,
so that people survive it. I know somebody that has cancer.
Once that is
highly detected and taking treatment, and the person is moving around. So we wish the governor the best in health, so that we'll come back and continue to do what he knows how to do.
All right, let's move to politics and the battle for the leadership of the incoming 10th National Assembly. The leader of Arewa Youth Consultative Forum, Yerima Shettima, has pleaded with former governor of Zamfara State and frontline aspirant for Senate presidency, Abdulaziz Jari, to concede to former Abia State governor and the Senate chief whip, Orji Uzor Kalu. Addressing newsmen in Kaduna, Shettima said allowing a Southeast lawmaker and a Christian to become the Senate president will strengthen the unity in the country. He appealed to Jari to accept the position of Deputy Senate President. Judy, when I saw the move of Jari, when he came out, and I was like, this is not good enough. But whatever Nigeria stands for, the president is a Muslim, the vice president is a Muslim. Abdulaziz Jari, what was it thinking about the unity of this country, coming out again and insisting that you want to be the Senate president?
Well, sometimes two people get into this contest for reasons best known to them. Maybe to bargain for something, maybe to get the attention of the number one. People have various reasons. Some go into a contest even when they know they will not win. You think they are fools, but they know what they're after. Because when you look at this whole contest, it's not difficult to come to the conclusion that Jari is not the front runner. That is a fact. And Jari and Orji Uzor Kalu are in the same camp. So that's the point that fellow is making, that look, step down for your brother from the Southeast, because they are in the same group. This thing, as far as Yerima is concerned, this thing should go to the Southeast. And your brother, a member of your own political group within the Senate, is interested in the Senate presidency. Why not step down for him so that you can become his deputy?
Deputy.
Yes, so Nigerians will say his vice. I don't know where they had that English from. So that you can, his deputy, he can then become his deputy. So that's the argument of of that person. You see, because the National Assembly, the race can sometimes be very fluid. Sometimes at the last minute that the pendulum, you know where the pendulum will swing to. But it's clear that the people supporting the former governor of Akwa Ibom State, they are consistent in terms of the way they've welded themselves together. So it's difficult to not admit that that is the front runner in the race. But it doesn't mean that some people will not challenge him. So, and those who are supporting Yari, they too are resolute that it has to be Yari. But just as you said, we have not even overcome the bad blood generated by the Muslim presidential tickets. So it will make sense for us to ensure that we do not anger some Nigerians further. Because they will say, okay, because they got away with the Muslim ticket, they are stretching their luck further. I don't think that we should give people...
To be misinterpreted.
We should give people the reason to think that that is what is happening. And the APC as a party has to be very careful. So they've got to prevail on anyone from the far north who is a Muslim to not get in that race. Getting into that race sends the wrong signal, even if you may not win. You know, it still sends a wrong signal. But I know that in the National Assembly, there are people who would not want these divisions to get wider. And the way to not ensure that the division does not get wider is to let the Senate presidency go to the south, either the southeast or the south-south. So that will help us in our desire to achieve healing in our country.
So we can't be saying, you know, some people will be talking about merits, that so far his experience, so far he can do the job. We should not be talking about religion or ethnicity. But this, in this particular case, for 2023 election, because of the kind of country we're in, it looks somehow for Abdulaziz Yari to say he's coming out to be the Senate president.
Yes, what is happening is that some people are trying to latch at what happened during the APC presidential primaries and the selection of the vice president. So to them, if the president-elect, who is a Muslim, could also find it necessary to pick a fellow Muslim as a vice president, so for them, they think, well, anything goes. To them, it's a question of morality on the issue of who becomes the president of the Senate, who becomes the House of Representatives president. But what has happened in the presidency has happened. We have a president who is a Muslim, we have a vice president who is a Muslim. But are you going to rub it on the faces of other religions and other regions, as it were, that the Senate president will also throw it open, let it come from anywhere? But let us be very clear about this. When we talk about this issue of Muslim, Christian dichotomy, there are some people that worship Songo in this Nigeria. BKO, there are some people that worship Amadion in my place in Obo that are not Christians. They are saying that they are not being put into consideration. Are you telling them that it's only Christian and Muslim that make up?
I think traditional.
In traditional, of course, yes, now
Quran.
Yes, if you go to court, are you a Muslim or Christian? You say you are none. They say, what do you believe in? Whatever you believe in is what will be given to you to swear with. But religion, no.
Yeah, the population of those people is very small.
No, don't say BK. Whether they are even a single person.
Are they majority?
Whether they are majority or not majority, is immaterial.
There are dominant religions in every country.
Yes, they are. But what I'm saying in essence is that the first thing remains that
I remember Rauf Ariboshola
what we have
declared the public holiday in Osun State.
So what we have before the coming
worshippers
of this so-called white man religion that Jide and I and you are worshipping, we had our traditional religions. But that is just that's a better.
No, you are taking our argument to
go back to it.
We can go back to it.
But you know, see, the two religions that divide us as a people. Let's tell ourselves it. Is Christianity
dominant?
It is dominant. Is still politics. So, but what I'm heading at is,
if we want peace,
yes,
let's ensure that between these two dominant religions, we achieve balance.
Yes, I agree.
So that is the thing.
But now going to the issue of
expanding the scope of
no, I will expand because most often than when people like you talk Christian and this, you think that is where there are some people that don't believe.
We
in
know that.
Are you worshiping the God of?
No, my name is Christopher, so I cannot. But going to the presidency now, the fact remains that, as Jide rightly said, there's no way that we can have a Muslim Senate president, and definitely also the North. The way it goes, the fact remains that the Senate president has to come from the South, either from the Southeast or South. The APC on itself had narrowed its candidature to Governor Akpabio. And for now, I heard that the president will tomorrow meet with members of the National Assembly, especially of the opposition, even the opposition. That shows you some level of maturity. And you know what I found very interesting about this campaign? Is the way Akpabio, he might not be the best of person in terms of personality and the rest of, but the way he has been going about his campaign is something that has really taken him. This is Akpabio. This man has been going to opposition parties. He has been to the Labour Party secretariat. He has been to, I think, that of SDP, and also been to that of, and other will try to galvanize support across board. So it is not because he wants to win, and that is the best.
Doesn't want to leave any stone unturned.
For me, as far as I'm concerned, that of the Senate is almost settled. You know where the problem is? In the House of Representatives.
Jide, now let's look at the effort of Mr. President himself. I think Mr. President is aware of this point we are making, so he has done whatever he could do to make sure that, look, this Akpabio project, that man is standing on his feet and it's still like, guys, please, this guy is a Christian and it's somebody that I want to be the Senate president.
Yes, I think it's very clear. Where there is a bit of ambiguities in the House of Reps, everyone knows that from the beginning, this was the person that you wanted. For the House of Reps, you know, he didn't really come out as we've seen him come out in respect of the Senate. And that's why some people believe that, look, the president is not bothered about who becomes the House of Reps Speaker. But at the same time, so that it doesn't look like he's going against the decision of the NWC, you can see that he's been very careful. He is not showing his cards. He's just playing it cool. He has not come out frontally the way we've seen him do, the way we've seen him canvass for Akpabio. If not for Asiwaju, perhaps Barau will still be in the race by now. Okay? Because at some point Asiwaju had to call Barau to give up his desire to become Senate president and opt for the deputy Senate presidency. So I believe that in the end, reason will prevail. And in my view, without, at the risk of sounding supportive of a particular religion, I think at the end of the day, a Christian will become the Senate president. Many people from the far north many Muslims agree that in the interest of balance, that this is what should happen. And some of the unfound terrible, or this, the usually stubborn people in the Senate, we've seen them queue up behind Akpabio, our friend from Borno South.
Yes, so you don't want to take on him.
You know, he is, this time around, he has quickly let people know where he stands. And so we were surprised that this time around, he didn't, initially he showed interest in the thing, but he comported quickly. And we can see where he, we can see where he stands on this matter. So,
all right,
the resolution, I believe, is moving closer and closer.
Moving on now, that Nigeria runs an expensive presidential system of government has dominated debates for years. The call for the reduction of the cost of governance gathered a fresh stream when former governor of Kano State and senator representing Kano Central Senatorial District, that Ibrahim Shekarau, advised President Bola Ahmed Tinubu to cut down the number of federal lawmakers. Shekarau noted that the country does not need the two chambers of the National Assembly, made up of 109 senators and 360 members of the House of Representatives, totaling 469 lawmakers. Julie, Senator Shekarau knows that this is a major constitutional issue. He knows that for President Bola Ahmed Tinubu to implement this, the 1999 Constitution as amended must be adjusted.
And it's not, you know, there are some portions of the Constitution that you can alter. But for some, you have to go around the country.
Yeah.
This one, before a major decision like this can be taken, you have to take it around the country and get the buy-in of two-thirds of the houses of assembly in our country. And you can't bet that once you begin to do that, you see that some of the houses of assembly will start pulling out.
Because it depends on what the governor feels.
It happened with the local government autonomy meeting. Many of them refused to agree to it. You know, they wanted legislative autonomy, but local government autonomy, many of them said no. You know, so we've seen it done in Senegal, where the president fired the Senate. But Nigeria is much more complex and difficult to run than Senegal. Even if you have altruistic desires,
yes,
you can't bet on Nigerians. You can't bet on Nigerians arguing and disagreeing with you, no matter how good the intention is.
Yes.
So to say that, I thought he would even say, okay, one of the chambers, because you know that CKN's former governor also made that suggestion that we don't need two legislative chambers. That's Okorocha. He posited that, look, one of those houses can serve us. In fact, I'm convinced too that the House of Reps can serve everybody, because there are many. You see a state having as many as 24 House of Reps members.
In Kano, 40-something.
You know? So, I think Lagos is 24. I mean.
Yes, Lagos is 24.
Yes, and Kano is about that size too. I know, maybe 22 or so. I can't remember. It's around 22. I know that NNPP has 18 in the House of Reps now. You know, after their tsunami, they got 18 members.
All over.
So maybe they just gave
visited everywhere.
They gave the remnant to the APC and others. You know, it's like a king eating at his dining table. So he allows the crumbs to drop for other people so that they won't say,
Yet alone.
Yes, let the crumbs drop for others to pick. So they have 18 members of House of Reps. The rest of them share the rest. So now I can support having one chamber. And if we are to have one chamber, then for me, we could do what they did, what the president of Senegal did, by firing the Senate. Those guys, if a state can have 24 House of Reps members, and another state can have close to that, it means that there should be enough to represent us. No one can say 24 House of Reps members are not enough to represent us in Lagos. So for me, that is because, look, I understand where it's coming from. The cost of governance,
yes,
we've got to find a way to bring it down. I know it will be difficult. Any government that tries to do it, they will fight that government bitterly. Because you are trying to take feeding bottle from the mouth of some people. So you will be resisted. You should expect that you will be resisted. But the presidential system is very expensive. I don't think that with the dwindling resources that we have now, that we can sustain this thing for much longer. If we don't want to do it, then let us do rapid cost cutting across all sectors. If we can do that, fine. But I believe that a unicameral legislature is good enough for our country.
A unicameral legislature, so when you look at the desirability, but you as a lawyer, what it takes?
Jide has really said it. It will need serious legislative amendments, constitutional amendments, and apart from the both chambers of the National Assembly concurring to that, it has to be taken around the whole 36 state houses of assembly, and 2/3 of members of those state houses of assembly has to concur too. After that, we'll be now unified and then pass into law. But it can be seen that it will be much easier for an elephant to pass through the eye of a needle for such to happen in Nigeria. It's not possible. Then, taking for that, what we're running is a presidential system, a bicameral legislative system, copied from the United States of America. That is where we got this thing from, the presidential system from the United States. And if you know, in the United States, you have the Senate, you also have what they call their own House of Representatives, as it were. Before that, yes.
I mean, the Vice President is the Senate President.
And why their own is that Vice President is the Senate President of their own. Then, before then, in the First Republic, we ran a parliamentary system fashioned alongside that of the United Kingdom, where you have upper and lower houses. And that is why we also have House of Representatives. But if I were to go, I would say that, yes, at this point in time, we need to really scale down the number of people representing us. 469, to me, is too large. Why did they rather go for the House of Representatives? I would rather go for the Senate. Let us have 109 senators, equal number of senators per state, 3-3, as it were, for equity and fair play. Don't forget already that we have in each of the states houses of assembly. Each state has their own house of assembly, which are legislating on affairs concerning those states. So the senators, or whatever name we call them, whatever nomenclature we call them, will only be representing all the sections of the country. That is 36 states and FCT that have one. FCT, that's why we have 109 senators. FCT is represented by one. I rather think that we should just collapse and go for the Senate. But beyond that, we have to cut costs in governance. And the way to go about it is going back to what the Steve Oronsayan report. If you remember vividly what that report said.
Yes.
The merging of various ministries, departments, agencies. It is very key. You will see so many agencies. In fact, there's a report going on that as of yesterday, I was going through under the current the SGF. Yes. The SGF, I'm sure you must have seen this thing.
Yes, that's right.
Where the SGF has close to almost 20 agencies.
Yes, under him.
They are still creating more.
And they are still creating more. That one, about 20 already, just under the SGF. There are still about 3 levels again. That is also. Then you now ask, when you see agencies that they are just duplicating, and some of them don't even have anything to bring back to the table. We continue spending. You look at, there was was it the Senate?
Current expenditure
It's also very, very high because we spend practically everything in Abuja on recurrent. We have been little unnecessary.
Allowance,
yes,
allowance,
having little unnecessary for capital, and that is a problem. So those are the issues. I think that is the way to go. The current president, the first government, should go and look at that unnecessary report that the last government, with which they talk with lip service and could not implement. You could see that almost close to about 100 or 150 MDJs.
Oronsaye was made to suffer. They turned against him, put him on trial.
Yes.
Because of that.
Because of that report.
They lied against him, and by the time they got to court, they couldn't prove the things that they said. They said the only house that man has in Abuja, he built that house with funds provided by Union Homes. When they got to court, he had the check stubs. He had the check stubs. So he presented it. His lawyer filed a no case submission. The no case submission succeeded.
And that's it.
Okay, so I have Awa Hassan on the line. Thank you for joining us, Awa.
Thank you so much, Ayo. Thank you for having me. Ayo,
right.
sorry, I want to contribute on the National Assembly leadership.
All right.
Sorry you've passed it, but I'm going to be quick in doing that. Ayo, you see, it is you and I that are outside the National Assembly that brings on religion in the leadership. If you've been to Yari's secretariat at the Hilton, a lot of senators that are standing on for Yari are Christians. Likewise, if you go to Akpabio's side, you see a lot of Muslim senators that are standing by Akpabio. So it is us in the outside. The president's role is just advisory. He advised it should be a Christian from the south so as to have balance of the Muslim ticket. But he cannot force them. He can't force them to choose leaders for them. He can only advise, and that is what Asiwaju has done. And it is us outside that actually put religion into it. I think the stakeholders involved in the party and in the government should continue talking with them. We still have a week or so. Let them have negotiations. Let everybody come to the table. There is a way they speak, and there are stakeholders outside and inside the National Assembly that formed the leadership that are strong in making the leaders in the National Assembly. They should be talked in and try to strike a balance. But saying it's Christian or a Muslim from the outside, it's us that will be speaking on that. Our representatives in the Senate do not speak on religion. They speak on what matters and what fits them and what satisfies their interest, not us outside. So I think we should even stop looking at religion, Ayo.
Thank you, Awa. We actually put them there. We are saying from the optics, Awa. It's not good for our country. No, whatever it's what. Not for members. They are representative, and we are telling them now.
Oh, that's it. When we talk about these things, federal character principle is enshrined in the Constitution.
Yes. It is.
The people who put it there, they put it there for a reason. It's just for us to achieve balance and be able to see ourselves as one people, and ensure that there is no domination of one religion or domination of ethnicity. Yeah. So that is it's not as if anybody that they put there, I am game.
Is a Nigerian.
But not everybody thinks like the rest of us.
Honestly, the backlash. Yes. The party will not be able to handle it.
Yeah. No, of course.
Now, moving further, the bigger a problem, the more complex the solution required to tackle it. As the security situation across Nigeria continues to pose more threats, the federal government has been tasked to boost the capacity of the military and the police to deal effectively with such. At a gathering in Lagos, security experts and analysts like human rights lawyer Femi Falana and Babajide Kolade Otitoju advised the new government of President Bola Ahmed Tinubu to procure more arms for security agencies to take the war against terrorism to the doorstep of the enemies. Let's hear from them.
The factor again that we must factor is that the efficiency of the security architecture depends on a politically driven security governance service. a service system which is provided by constitutional mandatory defense. Security and intelligence agencies that are structured, qualified, equipped, and professionally managed.
The solution to our security problems lie here in our country. We just need to find the methods that work. And I believe that if the government is availed all of what we talked about today, they will find the ideas that are best suited for the situation that we find ourselves.
By virtue of Section 14 of the Constitution, Section 14, subsection 2, the security and welfare of the people of Nigeria shall be the primary purpose of government. That, for me, encapsulates the entire discussion today. You can't talk of security architecture if you are not going to address the welfare of the people, you know. So you can't be talking about physical security without discussing social security. And social security is much more important. If the people are poor, if they are frustrated, if they are disenchanted, they are going to take to crimes.
Technology is what we call a force multiplier. What that means is that if I'm standing here, I can only see so far out. But if I send technology, if I send a drone, if I have cameras that are up there, it can survey a place even longer, it can survey it further. So what we're saying is that technology enhances the solutions that we're providing, and it's important that we leverage on that today.
Wow. Julie, security.
Yes, security.
Security.
You are so
security.
I didn't hear what you said.
All right. Now, tell us what this conference is about.
Oh, it's the Department of Sociology, UNILAG, that organized this Georgia session on security. Everyone wants us to defeat insecurity in our country. And remember, the president said that he will prioritize security in that meeting with the service chief. So what we did at this conference was to kind of lay the foundation for successful prosecution of the war against terror and war against banditry by telling the president what needs to be done. As you can see, the time where the woman that spoke last, her own focus was on how you can leverage on technology, you know, to gather intelligence assets, drones, to locate and pinpoint the exact location of bandits and terrorists so that they can be dealt severely with. And of course, someone like the former CP of Lagos State,
Fatai
Osheni, said, look, every society gets the kind of law enforcement it deserves, and he harped on the need to motivate the police, because this time around, some of the roles that the police should be playing are actually being played by soldiers.
Yes.
But if we equip the police sufficiently and we provide them with the needed, we care about their welfare, definitely they will give their best. He was also talking about poor funding of the police, poor funding of police divisions, police formations and all that. A situation in which a DPO lacks the money with which he needs to run his police formation is not good for crime fighting. Because that's why you see policemen on the road turning themselves to Alagbe, asking everybody for money and all that. So we cause some of these problems. And you see Femi Falana said it is the responsibility of government to provide security for the citizens. And one of the speakers too said, look, for us to succeed in the war against insecurity, we have to look at a lot of the assets that are wasting away. He was talking about retired soldiers, retired policemen. a lot of them retire as early as maybe 55 years.
Honestly.
And
underutilized.
Underutilized. So he's saying that, look, you can actually still use some of these people. And he's saying beyond the armed forces, private security outfits can play their part, including even community policing, in ensuring that we have a much more secure country. And I agree. We can't leave this to the police and the army alone. That point, I made that point clear, that in this situation that we found ourselves, every Nigerian has to play his part. If you see crime being committed and you fail to raise an alarm, you are an accomplice. You are an enabler of insecurity. So we have to play our part and stop constantly blaming our security operatives every time things go wrong. But the issue of funding, the issue of equipping of the troops, I think everybody agree that the president should build on that. President Buhari bought some game-changing weapons for the army.
To prosecute the war.
His successor has to follow, consolidate on that. I think he also made a promise that in the area of infrastructure he will sustain the tempo. So that is what it was well organized, and look, the success of it coming from a university, a department at the university, I think master students of sociology and
Faculty of Social Science.
What we came up with, honestly, if they can just put everything together and give the people in government, it will be very, very useful to them.
Tiken, I want a day that I will be able to see the police taking over entirely internal security of this country. I don't want our military to be engaged in 30 states out of 36 states, private operations around the country.
I agree with you. The primary responsibility, that is their primary responsibility as given to them by the Constitution. Internal security is the job of the police. Why the military, the police, the army, the Air Force, and the Navy are supposed to care for external aggression against the country. That is what the Constitution says. Then other sister agencies like the DSS, like the other agencies, security agencies, supposed to complement the job of the police. But that is where we are. One, the fact remains is that we are under police. We are totally under police. If you look at the population of Nigeria and you know the United Nations policy on policing, we are nowhere close to what we're supposed to be. That is one. Two, that means we have to increase our recruitment drive. Tied to that is that how do we recruit? So what type of people would you recruit? So that we don't recruit right people, not just recruiting people, but making sure that we recruit the right people. And the right people, we only recruit the right people by having the best of motivation to be able to motivate them. The police should not be an institution for dropouts or people who don't have other jobs to do. That just take policing, a police job as a last resort. I just graduated, some of my classmates were senior members of the Nigerian police. Fantastic guys. Very, very brilliant. Intelligent, superb. Anyway, even as they talk, most of them, they beat me for class to show you how tough really most of our policemen. We have some of the best policemen in the world. And it's a fact, which is why when they go out, you see them excelling. Not just police, our military, our soldiers and the rest of them. You go to foreign peace mission, most often than not, you see that out of several soldiers, they use a Nigerian to head those units. That is how good our military men are. So mine is that, are they being motivated enough to be able to make sure that they do what they're supposed to do? Tied to that, also their insurance, their life. A policeman goes out in the morning, doesn't know whether he will come back in the day, and knowing fully whether if he dies, whether the gratuity and everyone would be paid his family. So that in itself, so before we start going to the point of, they are standing on the road collecting 20 naira. I made a trip recently from the southeast to this, and I saw a lot of policemen on the road.
Checkpoints.
Yes, at checkpoint. Left to that, but what baffled me most, apart from them being at the checkpoint, is that during the rain, during the sun, these guys are on those spots.
Yes.
That is what we should be looking at. Beyond just saying they collect, why can you stand on the sun for 2 hours? So those are the issues for me. Now, if we'll be able to do that, then another aspect of it is trust. There's a trust deficit between the security agencies and the civilians. Why it is more difficult for a Nigerian to have an information and try to pass it to Nigerian police.
At all.
BK, you know that very, very well.
Yes. It can be dangerous.
Yeah, it's very dangerous.
Yes.
BKO, you will know that in the UK, as a black man, as somewhere you find yourself in certain part of London, and you are just moving around anyhow. And within that period, you'll be shocked that somebody just sitting, an old woman sitting by her window, have noticed you, and said that this man's face is not familiar. You will call the police, and before you know, they meet you there. So those are the issues. When we're able to build that trust, then you can see that Nigerians will be volunteering information. There have been instances when you give information to police, report somebody that has committed a crime, only for the person to get to know the reported, get to know of the information that you saw what happened with those that break out from the prison recently. BK, remember vividly the prison. So one of the guys, after he left the prison, quickly went back to the village and killed the man that reported him. That led to him
they testified against him in court.
Was
that not why we said that the idea of televising presidential, even the witnesses would not stand in the door. When you put camera in their face, they will run away.
So those are the issues. So there is a lot of problem, but I hope and I believe that the next set of security chiefs, which I'm sure the president within the next few maybe months or latest 1 year should be able to change, to be able to inculcate this kind of idea within the security agencies, and there will be inter-agency collaboration, which the president has mentioned in his first meeting with the security chiefs. Once we can be able to achieve that, I think we'll be able to achieve a lot in our fight against insecurity.
All right. The agricultural sector in Kwara State, north central Nigeria, is set to take a new turn. The government has signed a two major agreements with the French government on strategic partnership on knowledge transfer and large-scale livestock production. Governor Abdulrahman Abdulrazak led government officials to sign a memorandum of understanding on behalf of the state government, while French Minister of State for Development, Francophone and International Partnership, Christophe Chapereau, linked the deal for the French government. The project is expected to improve milk and meat production, as well as livestock productivity and marketing. Let's share the story by TVC News' Ibrahim Alege with you.
The French government official aircraft landing at the Ilorin International Airport for the first time in history. After the exchange of pleasantries, it's time to settle down for business, the signing of Memorandum of Understanding. The Memorandum of Understanding contains such areas as the use of the Innovation Hub for knowledge transfer, as well as development of the latter grazing reserve for large-scale livestock production. The project is expected to strengthen efforts to improve milk and meat production, as well as livestock productivity and marketing of these products.
Today, our cows produce 1 liter of milk a day. The French cow produces 35 liters of milk a day. Now, how do you bridge that gap? How do we try to improve? That is what this concord that we're trying to sign is all about. Making our cows produce 8 liters, 9 liters, 10, 15 liters, going up there, using the best practices. That is what this agreement is all about today. So it's about food security, it's about reducing conflict. And reducing conflict means we're spending less money on security and all that.
Governor Abdulrazak says his administration is willing to take advantage of agric innovations to improve yield and put Kwara on the global map.
But we want to take the best advantages in terms of innovation in agriculture to improve the yields per hectare, to make sure we are competitive in agriculture, in technology in youth employment. Now, your visit is quite a game changer, like I said, and it's a bold statement. So we will send some concordat now, soon, today, which will take great steps to moving things forward.
French Minister of State for Development, Francophonie and International Partnership, Chrysola Sakharopoulou, is impressed by what she has seen in Kwara, calling the state a hub of human capital development, especially with education, youth empowerment and gender inclusion policies. She says France is ready to support Kwara State in its agricultural transformation plan.
You have a big ambition through your agricultural transformation plan, and this plan could make a major contribution to livestock production, job creation, and living standards. It could also greatly contribute to peaceful coexistence, and it could even become a model for other states. So we are delighted to support you on this matter. The French Development Agency, AFD, invests a lot for rural infrastructure in this region, and I'm very happy to witness the signing ceremony of a memorandum of understanding between the government of Kwara State and the French consulting company BRLI, which kicks off their partnership in the modernization of the Lata Grazing Reserve.
The Memorandum of Understanding also covers transfer of knowledge to boost French language and culture in Kwara State.
A letter of intent regarding the relocation and the Alliance Française of Ilorin with the Future Innovation Hub. We're very grateful to the government for this unique opportunity. Thank you to all of you. That will benefit to both institutions and help boost the development of the French language in Kwara State and, of course, the development of our partnership.
The MOU signing was followed by a brief inspection of the Dolby studio-fitted Ilorin Visual Arts Center, one of Abdurazak's signature projects, which seeks to promote creative industry using cutting-edge technology. Ibrahim Alige, TVC News, Ilorin.
The new chairman of the Nigerian Governors Forum, yes. Governor Abdurrahman Abdurazak, a very silent achiever.
Very silent election winner.
When you look
I predicted that he will be re-elected, some people sent messages to me, they were abusing me. At the end of the day, in the presidential election, he won every local government. In the governorship election, he won every local government.
Effectively. So, silencing the
you sent me a text, you were abusing me.
The dynasty of Saraki?
No, it's effectively silenced. Now, if you can win every local government, what are we talking about? Even in Kwara North, where the PDP picked their candidate from, this man still won every local government across the state. So this is the thing. He's just doing his thing, doing it quietly. He's not a man of many words. He does not, he hardly grants interviews.
Yes, yes.
We won't think he doesn't understand English, but he understands English.
Of course.
You know? But he hardly talks. He hardly talks.
He hardly talks.
Yeah, so that's his nature.
Doesn't cut
and I think that even when you look at him, he's not so good at playing politics. But I think the people, he has that goodwill. The people like him, the people want him, and we are seeing the result. So
the number of times we've met him, we told him that, look, he will list his achievement for almost 1.5 to 2 hours. And I said, but these things, they are just there. Nobody knows. Nobody hears about him. Another one for the governor of Kwara State, this partnership.
Yes, it's the sort of partnership that we should be having. Make production. Because they talk so much about make production, you know, how France can be of help. When you see how India, Holland are making money from make production, Germany,
big markets,
you know that we have not started. Germany is the highest producer of milk in Europe. They have 4.2 million cows, and they are generating 31.9 million tons of cow's milk in a year. You know how much India generates? India accounts for 24% of global milk production. 24%. And India generates 188 million tons of milk a year. So you can see how many times it's even higher than the highest producer in among the EU countries. Nigeria produces just 531,587 tons. So it's just a little over 500,000. And we are talking of a country producing 188 million tons. We are talking of Germany producing 31.9 million tons. The average yield that you get from the Nigerian cow is so low because we have not embraced the best practices.
Yes.
We still prefer our cows to be
roaming around the streets.
Roaming everywhere. In Abuja now, you see cows, even on the road in Abuja.
Yes, everywhere.
They are not, the people, if Holland were to let loose if Germany were to let loose their 4.2 million cows, people will hardly find where to stand because the whole area will be littered with cows. But if you want the best production, you have to localize them in a place, provide what they need. The veterinary doctors will be in that location. The food that they need to eat, they don't need to roam around to eat the food. They don't need to roam around before they can find water. So, and everything that will make them big and produce the right quantity of milk, we have to embrace such practices. That is why when they talked about knowledge transfer, and they talk about dairy products and all that, I say, this is a good idea. Perhaps this man is already thinking, and you know, what I used to have those farms.
Yeah.
You know? Perhaps he's thinking of doing agriculture on a much bigger scale than we have seen before. So this is a very laudable initiative.
I think state by state, it's also good just concentrate on something you'll be known for. If, you know, like during in Kebbi State now, we know Kebbi as, you know, for rice. So if these people are going to face this milk famine, it will be something that is good and it can be the biggest.
Yes, it will Nigeria. But let me just take it back to what Jide was saying about the governor of Kwara State. And probably for me, positive for him, immediately the governor had issue with Alhaji Lai Mohammed. That friction between them, which a bit let him loose. I think he was able to focus on governance. Because for some period, there was a lot of distraction. Don't forget that Alhaji Lai Mohammed was part of those that were make sure that Saraki did not, his hold on Kwara politics was reduced, and he was part of it, but they fell out. And incessant intervention from the minister then in Kwara politics was more of a distraction, which almost caused serious rift between him and the government. But they were able to streamline it, and they went their better way.
So Lai Mohammed was never his godfather.
That is it. So he stated it, and he stood by it, and I think that was how he was able to go. So coming to the signing of the agreement with the French government, fantastic, good one. And I totally agree with you that every state should find its niche, as it were, when it comes to issue like this. Agriculture, I've said it time without number that there is no state in Nigeria that cannot stand on its own. If we decide to go it alone, without necessarily waiting on Abuja, going to Abuja camp in hand every month to go and collect stipends.
Discover your own potential and
discover your own potentials.
Maximize it.
Lagos is moving ahead. Apart from the potentials, the IGR and the rest of them, Lagos has gotten a refinery that's one of the biggest in Africa, if not the biggest in Africa. And you can imagine what that will add to the IGR of Lagos.
And the human capital
and
is also a big
We're looking at 100,000. So kudos But my problem with issues like this is sustenance. Because we had a similar issue, similar agreement signed by ex-governor Bukola Saraki with South African farmers. You remember, people have forgotten. You remember when they were having issue in South Africa then, when Mandela took over and the rest of them, and they were being sent away from. We know that so many of them.
Zimbabwe farmers.
And it was Zimbabwe, not South Africa, it was Zimbabwe. They all came to Kwara State to establish.
Yes,
I don't think we are able to take. We've not taken stock of what we've gained. I want to see
what transpired.
What transpired and how sustainable that has been after he left office, and what have been gained from that collaboration. That is why I said
continued after he left.
Yes, so
continued.
But yes,
I don't know what state.
But we don't know the state
right now.
I think it is always good for us to have a periodic card.
It's not in the hand of the state government.
Yeah, that is what I'm saying. So we need to know.
Private.
Yes, we need to know how successful that is, so that what we are saying is that not when this governor leaves in about 4 years again, another government comes in and want to. But for me,
the problem, you see, what you are saying is our politicians. I don't want to abuse them, but our politicians.
They are terrible human beings.
Somebody starts something.
Yes.
It's laudable. Because you want to carve your own niche, you then abandon
not your own idea.
You now start your own.
You don't want to say.
You don't want to so that people they won't say, "Oh, this is the person
that started it."
That is it.
That you completed it.
Complete projects that you inherit.
Government is
before you start your own.
Government is a continuum.
You will still get credit. But to say, "Oh, I don't want to do this," I will now focus. By now, we'll have finished the Badagry Road now.
I'm telling you.
Yes.
If everybody was behaving like that.
All right, we'll take this break. When we come back, we'll talk more. This is Journalist Hangout on Sunday. We'll be right back after this breather. Please don't go away.
It's always a great morning on the TVC Breakfast Show.
Thanks for joining us on TVC Breakfast.
With the array of stories that matter and what's behind them.
As you say, the first blow indicates the direction of government.
Tell us what really is going on between your union and the federal government.
Once it's generated,
if you don't use it, it's waste.
We are not even sure whether we have a strategy for security.
Are you saying that there was nothing wrong in that?
Was he the one driving the taxi?
Answer the question.
Reveal your morning with all you need to know.
Like yes,
just mundane lyrics.
Yes.
How does that fit into your scheme of events or duties right now?
No chief of staff, no general has the right to call a governor to order. The governor has been elected by his people.
Start your day right, because this is the breakfast show that adds to your breakfast. TVC Breakfast, weekdays at 7 a.m. only on TVC News.
The National Assembly is a busy place. As the bastion of democracy, it is a place where bills are presented, motions debated, laws made, and the yearnings of the people are laid bare. Come with us as we take you through the workings of the National Assembly. We take you through plenary, committee meetings, and probes, all to ensure smooth working of the democratic process.
Thank you for staying with us. It's Journalist Hangout on Sunday, and I still have the Maestro in the studio, Babajide Kolade, Otitoju, and CKN. CKN, I'm really used to this new name, President Bola Ahmed Tinubu. I've not gotten used to it.
Same here.
It's always this Muhammadu Buhari. But I'm getting
we get used to it.
President Bola Tinubu.
You know, I was listening to somebody, and there was an obedient, very big obedient. So when he was talking, and he said, the president, I noticed that he repeated the president like 3 times. Oh, he's sinking in. He's gradually sinking in, you know. And you see, look at Bode George, setting conditions for peace.
with the president.
The man there is not even bothered. You are the one who said you will
lost
travel.
all the election.
You said you will leave. You said you will leave Nigeria. All of them who said they will leave Nigeria, I'm looking at them with my korokoro eyes.
Former deputy governor.
They have all refused to leave. They have all refused to leave. When they were boasting that they will leave, when they were boasting that they will leave, they thought he would not win. It wasn't.
Yes, it was easy.
They didn't say it with conviction.
Yes.
They didn't say it with conviction
because they know
thought
that
he would
it will
not
fly.
win. So the moment he now won, he dawned on the sister Jima Aloma for Abone. You are going nowhere.
Let's go to our next one. All right. It appears organized labor has drawn a battle line with the federal government over the vexed issue of fuel subsidy removal. All that is left is who crossed the line first to avoid or trigger a nationwide strike. The Nigerian Labour Congress, NLC, has written to its 43 affiliate unions to mobilize for a scheduled industrial action on Wednesday, the 7th of June, following the hike in pump price of premium motor spirits, popularly called petrol. While the decision of the fuel subsidy received backing from the NNPC and the head of the representatives, organized labor insists that the president cannot unilaterally do so. Let's share some updates on the issue with you.
The Nigeria Labour Congress is squaring up for a showdown with the federal government over the recent increase in the pump price of petrol in the wake of President Bola Tinubu's declaration of an end to fuel subsidy regime in his inaugural speech. Queues resurfaced at gas stations. The new price regime of petrol is the sole agenda of this NLC's National Executive Council meeting. Human rights lawyer and NLC's counsel comes visiting. After about 4 hours without the media, the Congress arrived at some action plans. NLC says the reversal of the hike is a precondition for further talks with the government.
The NLC decided that if by Wednesday next week that the NNPC, a private limited liability company that illegally announced a price regime in the oil sector, refuses to revert itself for negotiation to continue, that the Nigerian Labour Congress and all its affiliates will withdraw their services and commence protests nationwide.
If you have no power to carry out an action and you do so, then it's illegal. And we're challenging NNPC. Let us know the law that allows you to jack up the prices of petroleum products in Nigeria. It's going to be legal and political.
Elsewhere, the Trade Union Congress also holds an emergency National Executive Council meeting on the same subject matter.
Discussions should continue while we demand that government should reverse back to status quo ante.
In the midst of the controversy generated by the hike in the price of petrol, this Abuja resident agrees with the government on the removal of subsidy.
The issue of subsidy has been well debated, and I think most Nigerians have come to terms that it's something that had to be done.
It is a moment of decision for the two leading labor centers in Nigeria, and how well the two organizations manage the situation at hand will determine the effectiveness of their strategy. Joke Edsa, TVC News, Abuja.
This is going to be the first test for President Bola Ahmed Tinubu. Wednesday, Joe Ajero led the Nigerian Labour Congress with its affiliate, 43, its affiliates, coming out to say no to the removal of fuel subsidy.
Yeah, I think that no matter what Labour thinks, the good health of Nigeria is more important than anything. It is inevitable that we will slip into bankruptcy if we continue. The signs are there, and we are not blind. a country spending 96% of its earnings of its receipts on debt servicing. Is that not a country that is heading for bankruptcy? A country that spent in the first quarter of last year, spent 118% of what it earned on debt servicing in the first quarter. If you do not see that as a dangerous sign, I wonder what it is. Now, if we were to sustain subsidy in 2023, we would spend 6 trillion on fuel subsidy. And a good number of us are not convinced that this thing is not a big scam. Peter Obi described it as organized crime and said that one of the first things he would do immediately if he got elected is to stop it.
You know, some Nigerians are opposed to this.
Because some people will oppose something. There are people
not that they don't understand.
There are people who want only to see palliatives before they can support the idea.
Yes.
There are people who want to see salaries increased so that it can mitigate the pains. The pains, we can't hide the fact that the pains will come.
How many people would that be reaching out to?
I support, you see, there are different ways. If electricity were to improve, for example, like in my house now, electricity has improved
tremendously
in my house. So what that means is that what I was spending on petrol
dropped.
The generator, to fuel my generators, would go down. And I've even told my wife, I said, money that I give you to buy fuel, I'm slashing it. This is 500 naira per liter era, not 189. So when they bring light, you must get up and go and
switch over immediately. Don't waste time.
No time, no story. So this is the thing. That is, if electricity improves, my burden will reduce. If you flood our states with commuter buses, the burden will also reduce.
Kind of palliative.
So those are like palliative. Then Asiwaju has also spoken about the need for salary increase, minimum wage. We have to. He told those doctors that it has to reflect reality. So I believe that, you know, that will not be difficult because in the past there were occasions when NNPC was not remitting anything. They will say they've used it to pay
for subsidy.
So now states will earn more.
Federal government,
because whatever they sell, whatever they sell now, they will be able to contribute a lot more to the federation account. So states will be able to find more money to do these palliatives, as well as also increase salary of workers. So for me, the subsidy has to go because we will save at least 10 trillion in a year.
A lot of people believe that for his maiden speech to say no more subsidy, subsidy should be removed, and that that will inflict pains, and that is not a very good welcome.
I think we need to make something clear. You know, Asiwaju didn't remove subsidy. Buhari removed subsidy, but many Nigerians don't know.
Of course.
And he was trying to explain that, look, in the handover note.
Some people are even saying that January to June, that, you know, it's January to June, and we can reveal to Nigerians that June does not have cash back
end of June.
Yeah, it doesn't even have cash back in the budget.
Yes.
Yes. First and foremost, the concession is that subsidy has been paid up to June. As I said, the impression has been that subsidy has been paid.
That's the impression, not reality.
The fact is, what we have the government told Nigerians whether subsidy was paid till June or not. That's the no. It's a communication.
Yes.
That's a communication problem.
Yes.
If you understand what I'm saying,
yes.
That is a communication problem. What we are looking at is a communication problem. The don't forget that this subsidy would have been removed, I think, around March or so. After, you now see the government say, "Oh, they are going to leave it.
They didn't want to remove it during this.
I know now. I'm telling you that the issue is that probably the way it was communicated to Nigerians was the problem.
Was it communicated at all?
No, it was communicated. Let me tell you, the president. Yes, at the speech.
He just said subsidy is gone. It's a policy issue.
No. BK, just a second. Let us get something clear. This is the president of the Federal Republic of Nigeria talking.
Yes.
It is no longer a presidential candidate.
He was reminding you people.
Okay, let's quickly, our guest is just waiting for us. Joining us via Zoom for more discussion on this is an economics and CEO of Diary Hills Limited, Kelvin Emmanuel. Thank you for staying with us, Kelvin. Hello, Kelvin. Kelvin, are you there? I think my producer will be working to get Kelvin, but they told me Kelvin was there earlier. Hello, Kelvin. Can you hear me, Kelvin? Okay, Sikian, let me come back to you, your explanation.
Yes, I'm saying that any policy statement made by president has a ripple effect.
Yes, it's all the power.
Whether we like it or not. The president said subsidy is gone.
Yes.
And in the mind of Nigeria, that same moment he stated it, it is gone. And that is why people that have fuel, petroleum, stock.
Wicked Nigerians that bought it for subsidized amount, started ordering, and the next day,
you understand what I mean? Quickly switch this thing. Even the NMP, who PC that become a player, came out with information and changed the prices. So that is where the issue is. But let me tell you.
I don't know where that, there was a meeting with the president.
Yes.
After that meeting, we saw
and that was it. But
they just felt, look, what are we waiting for?
But let me
just do it.
Yes, but
do it
let me say this, AY. It's nothing new. We are used to this. This is how it works. The prices of fuel will be increased to a particular point astronomically. Labor will kick. They'll be invited to meeting. They will agree on a price. There will be a price discussion.
This is different.
Wait,
once subsidy is gone, they will not negotiate.
I don't think government will want.
This is different.
Wait, let me.
This government does not even have the capacity.
I'm telling you.
Continue to pay.
AY, are you saying that the price of petroleum is about 300% over above what are this thing? Because we are looking at from 180. How much are we paying for subsidy?
We have to get the landing
cost. That is how it has to be. That is the landing cost. That is
It's
what Nigerians have not been told. It's the
currently.
landing of cost. So are you saying the landing cost is close to over 300%? So that is why we're, or 200%, that's why we're paying from 189
But yes, they told us. They told us
earlier.
It depends. If we even go to 700.
Yes.
Depending
international
on the
market,
international
the crude oil price,
market price
goes up.
But look at it, the fact that the petroleum, the Dangote refinery is coming on stream. Most people believe that it will be cheaper, but I'm saying that it's not going to be cheaper. No, I'm just saying that it's not going to be
better
because
government will not sell crude oil to Dangote.
Not even subsidy. There will even not be subsidy.
Okay, Kevin is with us now. Thank you for staying with us, Kevin.
Hi, good afternoon. How are you today?
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
We want to hear your own your take on the
removal of subsidy.
Exit of the subsidy regime.
Well, thank you. Very important question. I think there are three major things the president needs to do. Very painful decisions that should have been taken a long time ago. In 2012, Nigeria missed out on the opportunity to do it. Number one, removal of petrol subsidy. I'm 100% in support of it. Number two, removal of FX subsidy. Float the naira and align the curve. Number three, removal of power subsidy. These three subsidies cost Nigeria 8 trillion naira a year. FX subsidy costs Nigeria 270 billion naira a month. The government has deficit in its budget. It's supposed to borrow 7.5 trillion to fund 2023 budget. It cannot borrow the money because your credit rating is junk. Moody's has it as CA1. It's junk, not prime. It's junk status. Fitch has it at B minus. When Fitch started rating Nigeria, the first rating they gave Nigeria was Ba3. It's dropped four levels to B minus. Moody's has also dropped 4 levels, if I'm not mistaken. You can't borrow money from the Eurobonds market. No bilateral partner, Japan, Germany, China, is willing to give Nigeria money. The US to fund 7.5 trillion naira in deficit for the 2023 budget. The ways and means is a no-go area because you've securitized $51 billion in outstanding loans, and if you continue to borrow, and the reason, by the way, why CRR, or cash reserve ratio, is at 2.5% is because the central bank governor is basically taking cash from the banking system and giving it to the federal government. Where is the cash, extra cash, going to come from? Is the governor going to raise CRR to 40% or 45%, both the non-discretionary and discretionary, and say, okay, you're going to continue taking cash from the banking system to borrow the federal government at 18.5% plus 3, which is 21.5%, and then continue to plunge the economy into inflation? Because you see that the correlation between ways and means and your exchange rates, and the correlation between your exchange rate and foreign demand-induced inflation is the reason why even the MPRO hike has no impact on tightening monetary policy and bringing inflation back down to normal levels. So in my opinion, I believe it's time. We're overdue. It's late, but like the Chinese say, the best time to plant a tree was 20 years ago. The second best time is today. The removal of petrol subsidy is the right decision. And the shock therapy of the president announcing it at Inauguration Day and not giving the cabal that is fighting against the removal and that is benefiting from it trillions of naira, and not giving unscrupulous elements the opportunity to sabotage it like they did in 2012, is the right decision. It's shock therapy. We will adjust. And the government is going to put palliatives in place to ensure that Nigerians don't suffer for it.
All right. What palliatives are you looking at? Because
First of all, there are targeted palliatives that the government can put in place. Okay? You can set up CNG buses. You can set up CNG buses. You can give single-digit loans without a need for collateral to transport companies. You can have companies that are also interested in building CNG model on data stations with compression kits. So you don't run on fuel, because the price of standard cubic meter of natural gas in Nigeria, depending on the location, ranges from between 170, 180 and 270 naira per SCM, and it's almost equivalent to a liter of diesel or fuel. CNG is 41% the cost of fuel, 30% the cost of diesel. You can link Nigerians that are elderly and young, under 18, above 60, into a system where they get free transport rights if they're above 60 and under 18. Those are palliatives that are better than, for example, the plan of the former Minister of Finance to borrow $800 million from the World Bank and give conditional cash transfer of 10,000 naira every month. You can use that $800 million and set up targeted intervention in the transport sector to ameliorate the suffering of the people, while the president moves very quickly to increase, to try to solve the bottlenecks around power generation, transmission, and distribution in Nigeria.
Okay, how about the suggested increase in the minimum wage?
Okay, so the problem with the minimum wage is this: number one, even if you increase the minimum wage and say you're raising it to 45,000 a month, it doesn't impact on the private sector. And I'll tell you why it doesn't impact on the private sector. There is an issue in the private sector with casualization, employee casualization. You have manufacturing companies, you have banks, you have a lot of people who employ staffs. They don't pay them standard wages. They're not protected by National Minimum Wage Act of 2019. There are laborers who earn 20,000 a month. There are security guards who earn 15,000, 20,000 a month. And there is nothing that says, look, you know what? There is a law in Nigeria. If you employ someone, after 6 months, it becomes criminal for you not to confirm the person with permanent benefits and standardize their wages. So you see that the increase of minimum wage only favors government workers. It doesn't favor millions of Nigerians in the private sector. So for you to make it effective, I am in support of increasing minimum wage. If the government can raise it to 60,000, they should, but that would be a stretch. They can start raising it to 45,000 and gradually increase. The government needs to pass an accelerated legislation in National Assembly of employee casualization that will criminalize companies using third parties to recruit people as a way to ensure that their contract staff in perpetuity.
Yes.
No, yes, let me. I've listened to your analysis, which still depends on importation-based petrol product. And my question is, we are not talking about building refineries or reviving our existing refineries. We import close to almost 90-95% of our petroleum product, which is why we're having the high cost of petroleum product. So my question is, what can we do to be able to sustain this when we know that our refineries are not working? The one in Kaduna, the one in Port Harcourt, the one in Warri, and also the one in Kaduna. None of them is working, and which means that we continue importing. So if you have to advise the government, what is the long-term and short-term solution to this problem? Do we continue importing, or do we find a way of building new refineries and also maintaining the ones that we have so that we can refine locally?
So that's a question for me, yes?
Yes, it is. Yes.
Okay, so I'll tell you this. The turnaround maintenance money that the National Assembly says has amounted to about 11.5 trillion in the last maybe 15 or 20 years has gone down the drain. I don't believe that the government-owned refineries, any of the four of them, is going to be able to come back to functionality. They cannot revive those refineries. The first refinery was built by Shell in 1965, if I'm not mistaken. The government took it over, and the story goes. Look, it's time for the government to realize that it doesn't have any business doing business.
Yes.
And the sooner it realizes that some of these companies that are involved in the direct sale, direct purchase program are companies that it can actually empower to build commercial size refineries to compete with Dangote, the better for it. The Dangote refinery has come to stay. It's going to start production first week in August of 2023. At full capacity, Dangote can do between 48 and 53 million liters of PMS daily. It can do about 25 million liters of AGO. It can do about 9 million liters of Jet A1 and automotive turbine kerosene, ATK, and several other non-transportation fuels. So for me, I don't see the government doubling down. Look, those four refineries that are not functional, they cost the government about 100 billion naira in compensation costs and pension benefits to staffs. If you check the NNPC balance sheet, you'll see it. For me, it's time for them to sell it off as scraps, strip it off, sell it off as scraps, and focus on, for example, Buhari is doing the background work, he's doing engineering designs, and he's getting all his approvals for his planned 200,000 barrel refinery in Akwa Ibom. He needs the Baka Deep Seaport to be functional for him to build and get it to the finish line. NNPC should invest in him and support him like they supported Dangote towards the tail end of Dangote finishing his refinery. Government has no business doing business. It has no business doing business. If you're going to go to giving licenses to members of IPMAN and MOMAN to bring in PMS, you need to realize that, number one, there's a 27% handling charge for landing PMS in Nigeria. That is going to be factored into the cost. You need to realize that if you're also planning to unify the exchange rate and have everybody go to one single window to source for FX, and then there's a 27% handling charge, you're going for PMS per liter somewhere around 700 and 800 naira per liter. So the reality on the ground is that Dangote at full capacity can solve Nigeria's PMS demand on a daily basis, but it needs competitors.
Okay. Now, what do you have to say in respect of the NLC's desire to embark on a strike from Wednesday?
I don't support the NLC's decision to embark on a strike. Their decision in February of 2012 was misguided, and it's partly why we're where we are today. this is like a repeat of what they did 11 years ago. It's time for NLC to realize that everything is not nailed for them to use their hammer to hit, and picketing is not the solution to this problem. There are technical solutions to the problem. I expect NLC to sit down with the federal government and have them, go through constructive arguments. Number one, reduce the size of governors. Say that a condition on which we're going to not picket and not strike is that you cut down the size of government. How do you do that? You implement the Stephen Orasani report. It's the most comprehensive report for public sector reforms in Nigeria that we've had since 2010. Implement that report. It's going to cut down the size of governments, because you're going to see like a merger and acquisition of so many MDAs that are not necessary and that will shrink the budget for running the government. Number two, NLC has to understand that raising the minimum wage is important, but like I said earlier, you need to pay attention to the benefit of the people in the private sector by implementing employee casualization. Everything is not strike. Them going on strike and shutting down the country, especially in essential services sector and sectors that fall under Essential Services Act, is not going to solve anything. The government also cannot go back to the old price, because Nigerian government today borrows 600 billion naira monthly to pay PMS subsidy. 600 billion. The government cannot afford it. If the government continues on the path that is currently on, Nigerian government is going to default on its debt within 24 months.
24 months.
And the government is going to have to go to the central bank.
Do you see a correlation between what we are passing through or what we are approaching and what Greece was going through at some point before things came to a head?
Well, the situation in Greece, and Greece was owing about $500 billion. Nigeria is currently owing $171 billion. I think Nigeria's debt load is external and internal, is about 30% of what Greece had. But you can see similarities. And the reason why you can see similarities is because Nigeria's country risk premium is currently at 16%. It's gone up from 9% to 16%. And that's because your credit rating is low. That's because the tendency of the government defaulting on its debt is high. Nigeria's debt to GDP ratio is currently about 34.5%. Nigeria is using 96.3% of revenues to service debts, which is insane.
It's crazy.
Which is insane. Is a cause for alarm, and it's a state of emergency. People who don't understand that this is where the country is, advocating that the government continues to borrow money to spend, like flushing down the drain and paying for PMS subsidy. Nigeria has one of the cheapest petrol prices in the world. In Zimbabwe, the price of a liter of PMS is $1.50. In Ghana, the price of a liter of PMS is $1.30. In Cote d'Ivoire, in Benin Republic, Nigeria has the cheapest PMS price in sub-Saharan Africa. If the people are asking for the government to focus more money on healthcare, agriculture, defense, education, the people also have to understand that PMS subsidy is taking 32.5% of the money that is supposed to be redistributed to all these other critical sectors of the economy. And if we don't stop this bleeding, we're going to go to what Sri Lanka had, to what Lebanon had, to what Greece had, and to what Ghana just experienced last year.
I want to thank you, Kelvin Emmanuel. Thank you for that intervention. Wow.
Thank you for having me.
And finally, on the show today, for a currency that has lost its purchasing power, further deliberate devaluation will only stir resentment. The Central Bank of Nigeria, CBN, has denied a report that it devalued the naira to 631 naira to a dollar. In a tweet with a graphic image of fake news, the CBN debunked the report in some newspapers, suggesting that it devalued the naira. Meanwhile, President Bola Ahmed Tinubu has reiterated plan by his government to unify the exchange rates in the country. Jide?
Yes, I think that Nigerians can see the rebound of our stock market it is because the international community, foreign investors, see a reason to back this administration. Some of the things that they expected us to do in the past that we didn't do. We are seeing a president with the single-mindedness to do those things.
This removal of subsidies is part of
what
that
we
demand.
refuse to
They've been
do.
demanding it all through.
You know, because they can see beyond what the rest of us see. Some of us are emotional about some of these things, you know, but they know where we will land, and they don't want us to land there. A Nigeria that doesn't work is bad news for the world. It's bad news for our neighbors.
Bad news for us.
It's bad news for us. And we need to know that. So the truth is, you can't have a situation in which you have dual exchange window. And the dual exchange window, the margin is so wide, Ayo. The margin is so wide that everyone knows. Remember what SLS said, the former CBN governor.
Sanusi Lamido Sanusi.
Yes, he said somebody will just cross his leg in his garden. They bring 1 million, he knows people in the CBN, they bring $1 million for him at the official rate. Let's even say the official rate now, 460. And then he takes it to the parallel market to go and sell. 760, it was 768 sometime last week. So look at the money that that kind of person will make. And Asiwaju Bola Tinubu is saying, no, I want to discourage arbitrage. Because arbitrage is a disincentive to production. Because if you know that you can make this kind of money, you would rather go and trade the currency rather than
that's the most lucrative business.
Rather than push the money into production. So it is one of the reasons we have all kinds of problems in the economy.
Today we don't have time.
So we got to do we got to do something about this, and I support the president when he says, look, we must unify the exchange rate. During the Jonathan era, we didn't have a unified exchange rate, but the margin was not as wide as it is today.
Yeah, okay. Sikian, we don't have time. For more insights on this, let's join the director of the Center for Promotion of Private Enterprise, Muda Yusuf. Thank you for joining us, sir. Sikian.
Yes, on this.
Thank you very much. My pleasure to be with you.
Yes, anyway, we can go straight to question. But first and foremost, we have to establish that the news was published by Daily Trust newspaper. It's not every other. It was Daily Trust that had that exclusive report.
Yes, and they published a rejoinder that stood by that story.
And they published a rejoinder that they stood by the story. That I think we should put that very, very clear.
Yes, the second part of the question.
Yes.
You know, the question is in two parts.
Yes.
The second part of the question is what we are focusing on, which is the fact that Asiwaju said, look, we are committed to a single exchange window.
Yes. So the question to is that do you think that a single exchange rate with some of the problem we are currently facing, especially with our forests?
Definitely. It may not solve all the problems, certainly, but the multiple exchange rate is one of the biggest distortions that you have in the economy today. Two big subsidies have been a major burden on the economy. The fuel subsidy and the foreign exchange subsidy. These multiple exchange rates, we can also characterize it as a subsidy regime in the foreign exchange market. And one of the most difficult things to manage, especially in our environment, is this subsidy question. So the earlier we remove it, either in the fuel space or in the foreign exchange space, the better. Because it's going to bring a whole lot of impact, positive impact on the economy. Right now, we have major transparency problems in the foreign exchange market. It's creating a whole lot of problems about uncertainty in terms of planning, in terms of investment. A lot of investors, maybe close to 70% or 80%, currently rely on parallel markets, to get their foreign exchange. So when the CBN comes out and says that foreign exchange official rate is 465, blah, blah, blah. The reality is that the operating exchange rate today for almost 80 or 90% of operators in the economy and the citizens is between 700 and 750.
Yes.
That is the reality. And the interesting thing is that this issue of multiple exchange has even created a whole lot of problems for investors.
Yes.
Apart from the transparency problem, because for you to access the official window and get the foreign exchange at 460 or 465, first, it's either you have very strong connections that will connect you directly to CBN, or you are ready to, bribe people. That is the reality today. And for those who are very who are sticklers to corporate governance and very serious high level of business ethics, they just cannot operate in this environment. I know of businesses that have decided to quit the country because of this kind of environment. Look at the embarrassment we are facing with the airlines. The whole of the world, Nigeria has the highest amount of airline funds that are stuck in the country. Yes, in terms of foreign that are stuck in the country. So when we talk about COVID, we talk about Ukraine. Are we the only country affected by these things? Why are we in this kind of very embarrassing position? I know the reputational impact or the reputational effect, damage that this kind of things cause. Somebody who I was at a conference about 2 weeks ago. An investor went abroad, he wanted to raise money. And the first question they asked him was, how are you going to pay? That your airline's money has been stuck in your country. How are you going to pay us? Investors' money are stuck in your country. Foreign investors cannot take their money out.
Yes.
So that was the only question they asked him. And based on that, they said Nigeria was a no-go area for them, as far as funding is concerned. So it's a major issue affecting investment. And on top of that, there's a revenue effect. Now, the CBN offers averagely maybe between $18 to $20 billion to the market annually. Imagine losing about 200 or 250 naira per dollar. Because the current foreign currency you are selling at 460, you could as well sell it at 660. People will buy it because they are buying at over 700 anyway. So imagine you sell such foreign exchange in the market at 660. That's a loss of almost 4 trillion naira, if not more, that normally should have gone into the Federation account. So all of these things are being creamed off by those who have connection through arbitrage. So that is why we have built an economy where commission agents and brokers are making more money than entrepreneurs. We have turned the incentives upside down. And that cannot afford to continue. And President Tinubu was very clear in his inaugural statement about some key issues. And one of the things he said clearly was that the CBN must, he didn't use that, must work towards a unified exchange rate. He didn't miss words. So I was shocked when I was reading the statement again. After the president has spoken, I read a statement from the CBN saying that the exchange rate is still at 462 or 460 something. Even if they have not prepared the framework, they should not be speaking in a way that it be contradicting what the president has said. Because they are confusing investors. They are sending conflicting signals. I mean, you see what has been happening to our Euro bond and all of that, just based on what the president has said.
Yes.
Positive responses.
Positive.
Only for the CBN to come and say, no, we have not developed, exchange rate is still at 465. So we should discourage this kind of things. Once the president has spoken clearly as to the direction of policy, all agencies of government have to toe that line. If you have any disagreement, you engage with the president or with the policymakers.
How much capital, Doctor, how much capital by way of foreign exchange in Ekiti can we make from the removal of fuel subsidy?
Well, from fuel subsidy, well, I think we should be making close to between $10 to $15 billion. If we're able to, annually, yes. If we're able to stop all this importation of petroleum products. And the way to stop it is to create an environment for the private sector to go in there and invest. You know, invest in refineries, which is a major incentive, because if you do not remove the subsidy, the private sector cannot invest.
Yes.
And we cannot run an economy where you block a very important sector of the economy from investment from the private sector. And let me also make this very clear, especially to the NLC. Many of their members, particularly in the public service, many state governments have not been able to pay the minimum wage, even as little as it is. Many state governments are owing salaries. Sometimes 6 months, 8 months, 1 year. Many of them have not paid gratuity to workers, those who have spent all their lives serving the government. Pensioners are not being paid. And those that have been paid peanuts. I mean, I listened to BKO in a program 2 days ago or so, when he was saying that an AIG was earning 70,000 naira. These are all the things that labor should face. How you can move this money and use it to enhance the welfare of workers. That is their responsibility. If the government don't have the money, how will they take care of the workers? So I think labor should think deeply about this. Because their stance sometimes, rather than be, either grandstanding or trying to look very popular, they should face the reality. Many of their members are suffering. One of the most impoverished segments of the working class today are those in the public service. I mean, they should be asking for more wages.
Well, I guess they
should improve their pension.
I guess they are waiting for government to come up with palliatives or promise of palliatives, so that they can take that back to their...
They should put PKO, they should put this thing forward as their main priorities. Because they keep saying that don't remove subsidy, go and set up refineries. That should not be their priority. Their priority is their members are suffering. Their wages cannot buy anything. Their pensioners are suffering. Their duties are not being paid. All of these things need to be reviewed. I mean, I was listening to an emeritus professor when he was telling me the kind of peanuts he was earning as pension. I felt very sorry for him.
Yes, the pension is nothing.
He left service maybe close to 15 years ago. He was a very senior professor.
Oh,
but because
go
all
on and
things
on.
have been fixed.
I want to thank you, Dr. Muda Yusuf. Thank you for your contribution.
I've run out of time.
Very interesting. Director for Center for Promotion of Private Enterprise.
Okay.
It's a recurring matter, so
yes,
I'm sure we'll still go back to
Yes, quickly, AY, as we round up, it's a question of trust, and I've always used the word trust. Classical example is that I remember when the last increase of petroleum was made, the government promised to use the money for certain things, roads and other palliatives. The question you ask yourself, was that money used? So, judiciously. And that is always be the problem. This current government will make sure that Nigerians should be able to trust them on their promises and be able to deliver them. And that in itself bridge the gap.
On the final analysis,
yes.
2 windows for this dollar rates is criminal.
It is.
In our country.
It is.
Do you know that if you are traveling now,
461.
BK, do you know if you are traveling now, you know you get BTA. You can't get BTA.
You can't get BTA. No, BTA
you
is
won't.
a thing of the past.
Because the banks will tell you after you have applied.
Apply, go online, apply to CBN.
You will never
No, they will rather
You connected people.
take it to the private level.
They won't.
That is what you get when the margin between the two places is too wide.
Oh, too wide.
Look at, you give someone $1 million at 460.
Yep.
And he goes to sell it at 760 or
immediately.
750. You made a millionaire
out of the person.
So people can easily become millionaires without having to work. You know what someone also told me? He said, when business people are forced to go to black market to buy dollar at 768, they will be forced to import substandard products. Yes. Whereas in the same industry, you could find someone who got his home from
the animal farm,
and they are supposed to compete
guys.
That's the thing.
I want to thank you, Chris Kende Wandu. Thank you for your contribution today.
God bless Nigeria.
Yeah,
as you always say.
The Metro. Thank you for
God
your contribution today. And that's our offering today on Journalist Hangout on Sunday. Join us tomorrow for our regular program by 5 p.m. You can watch the repeat broadcast of this episode 11:30 p.m. this night, and we're on YouTube, youtube.com/TVC News Nigeria. I'm Ayodele Uzubakun. See you tomorrow, and God bless Nigeria.
Never miss a moment. Instant breaking news from all over the globe. Live streaming of your favorite programs delivered directly to you. Watch anytime from anywhere on your mobile or smart devices. Download the TVC News app today. Available on Google Play and Apple Store.